All right, Illini fans, let's talk about our favorite topic, Brad Underwood.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome one, welcome all to another Monday morning edition of Locked On Illini. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. My name is Sonny Verma, your host here at Locked On Illini, your only daily show that provides Illini content each and every day, including the weekends. You can find me on your favorite social media. Do a search for Locked On Illini, or just send me a message at the Sunny V. Our Discord is about to hit 150 people. Again, it's just been a fantastic week, and I should say this. Actually, that's how I'm going to start this week. We just wrapped up the most successful week of this channel. We came to almost 30% more viewers and downloads and subscribers this past week than we've ever had on the show. Now, the show is not quite a year old yet, but we're approaching that. It will be sometime Memorial Day. But to all the new faces, to the new eyes that are going to be watching this show, I just want to say I sincerely appreciate your guys' support. And I promise I'm going to do my best to give you some entertaining topics each and every day right here on Locked On Illini. Speaking of entertaining topics, the one that's up the first and foremost that seemingly comes up in every conversation when it comes to Illinois basketball is Brad Underwood. You guys know the story. Over the weekend, we found out that Morez Johnson is transferring out of Illinois. We found out Tre White is transferring out of Illinois. And at least as of this recording, that's it. That's all that's been announced so far. So again, if something else has happened in between when I started recording this and when you're watching this, I apologize. But I think that the topic of what I'm going to say, it doesn't really change much. So a lot of people are focusing on Illinois because of what happened last year and now this year about just the massive amount of roster turnover that's coming with, having Brad Underwood as your head coach. And, that just seems to be a simple reality. And it's a question I kind of entertain myself and a couple of old buddies of mine who are Illini fans. And I threw out the question that in a hypothetical situation, look, there's a very loud minority that want Brad Underwood gone. That, all these 21 seasons in a row, all this, it doesn't matter. They're ready to see Brad go. Then there's also a loud minority, which, people consider the Brad Underwood cult, who back Brad no matter what. Brad can't do anything wrong. The silent majority is those of us who I think for the most part support Brad, but understand that, hey, there's some issues that need to be solved. And so today's episode, is just, I'm reeling over a topic of conversation I had over the weekend. And that's just talking about the highs and lows of having a program run by Brad. And, there's a straw man argument when you talk about moving on from Brad Underwood. A lot of people say, well, are you ready to go back to the John Gross era, the era where we're going 500 in the Big Ten? We're playing on Wednesday nights of the Big Ten tournament. And then you have, people countering that comment saying, no, this is a top 10 paid job. We would get a better head coach here who would be an upgrade from Brad Underwood. And, there's, again, two sides of this story when it comes to that argument. And my question is, I almost wonder how good do Illini fans think that Illinois job is? Do you think it's a top 3 job in the Big Ten Conference? Do you think it's a top 5 job in the Big Ten Conference? I think the answer matters. See, where I come from, my perspective here is I'm seeing unprecedented success with Brad Underwood as the head basketball coach of the University of Illinois. I know this year, sure, we didn't quite, well, actually, we did kind of reach my expectations, at least. Winning 22 games. Yeah, you would have liked to make it to the Sweet 16, but I consider this a rebuilding year. And for me, I fully expect, again, these are my opinions. I'm not asking them to be yours. I fully expect that the down years from now on will still be 19 to 20 wins a year and an appearance at the NCAA tournament. It was not long ago that we weren't getting that. Like, I know a lot of you think that you should take it for granted. You should not. You absolutely should not. But I think with the way the college basketball and college football landscape has been changing, this whole NIL situation, this wild, wild west, which I called it in last week's episode, it's not changing anytime soon. And until there's some sort of overseeing regulation of everything going on, it's going to continue to be absolute chaos. And so where I'm coming from right now is I truly do believe that in an environment of chaos, we have two guys, Brad Underwood and Orlando Antigua, but I'm going to focus this one on Brad Underwood, who's probably as well fit to manage us through these stormy seas as anybody. But the conundrum here is with Brad Underwood, it's obvious that, there's always the chance for high roster turnover. Now, it's not as bad as the blank numbers will tell you. Okay, and this is I know the Underwood haters hate when I bring this up, but they don't like context for whatever reason, mainly because it doesn't align with what they're trying to say. Illinois replaced 10 guys on their roster this past year. Correct, right? Gets thrown in our face constantly. Heck, hand up. I say it constantly on the show. But this wasn't a situation where 10 guys defected from Brad Underwood and no longer wanted to play for him. See, what's going on now, Morez Johnson leaving and Tre White leaving, they have eligibility left. So that's why this is a little bit more concerning. What happened the previous year? Those players graduated. Listen, if Terrence Shannon Jr. wanted to come back to the Illini this year, you think Brad Underwood would have said no? He just became too good for the college level. The Illini legit tried to bring Marcus Damask back. They tried to get a waiver for him. It was unfortunately denied by the NCAA. That's another guy that, had he been able to come back, he would have. Quincy Guerrier would have been welcomed back with open arms if he was able to come back, but he graduated. Justin Harmon, same thing. He would have been welcomed back, but he graduated. Those are four names right at the top of the bat who, again, if they were offered the opportunity to come back, I think would have. And now all of a sudden that 10 people narrative goes out the window. All these players graduated. They simply could not come back. And so this is not like they ran away from Brad Underwood. They couldn't get further away. You couldn't get farther from the truth. Terrence Shannon Jr., Coleman Hawkins, these guys love Brad. This year, from what we're seeing, at least from the start, it looks like it could potentially be different. And so I know I'm rambling a little bit, but my conundrum, and this is a question I have to you Illini fans, is it kind of views on how you view this Illinois basketball program. Okay, in my opinion, it's probably number 4 or 5, maybe even 6 when it comes to hierarchy of best Big Ten jobs in the country. Okay, top 20 in the country. And I think a lot of you think it's better. A lot of you might think it's a top 2, top 3 in the Big Ten Conference. I don't think it is. And I do think that there's a chance that Illinois would drop off, maybe not super significantly, but have a drop off from winning 20 games every single year. Like we've gotten so spoiled at this point with those 20-point victories. But the downside of a Brad Underwood team is that while we'll continue to win 20 games, again, we've done it 6 years in a row now. It seems that moving forward, we're no longer going to be able to have those names that we get attached to when it comes to the college basketball. Like, we're not going to see Trent Frazier anymore. We're not even going to see a Coleman Hawkins anymore. Heck, we may not even see a Terrence Shannon Jr. anymore. It really does look like for Illinois that you're going to have these players here for 1 or 2 years max. And then either Brad will recruit over them if he thinks he has a better chance of winning, or these players will just move on in a different direction. Now, again, the ultimate question is, are we okay with that? As long as we compete, if we win 20 games every single year. Now, again, this question only works and applies if the Illinois program under Brad Underwood progresses the way my expectations are. And my expectations are Sweet 16 or better every year. Okay, of course, if, the argument is, he's only made one Sweet 16 that, and he may not in the future, then of course, this is a silly argument. Then it's time for Brad to go. But in my argument, I truly do think that we're going to be a routinely Sweet 16 team moving forward. But we're no longer going to have those players to attach ourselves to endear ourselves to. And I feel confident saying that because I thought Morez was the guy. And if Morez isn't the guy, then I just don't know how it's going to happen moving forward. Others of you might have a more romantic view of college basketball and Illinois. And you may prefer the angle of, getting younger players, and they would be less talented, but, they would stay here 3-4 years, and you'd be able to purchase their basketball jersey and know that it's not money going down the drain. But on those seasons, you'd be risking the 15-win season on occasion, 17 wins, maybe not making the NCAA tournament, maybe not making the NIT. Because that's going to happen when you're not recruiting the top-level talent like Brad does. Me, ultimately, right now, where I'm at, I'm in a pinch-me mode when it comes to Illinois basketball. I know we haven't quite reached the ceilings that we're capable of, but I also think context matters. And I truly believe that Illinois basketball team of last year, the one that lost to UConn, well, that UConn team was an all-time team that would have beaten anybody. And Brad's proven to me one time that he can have a top 5 team in the country. And that's really all we kind of hope for, right? We want a chance to have a bite at the apple at that national championship. And unfortunately, the way college basketball is working out, it's looking more and more like a professional league. And, we're no longer able to get attached to these younger players and, have them come in as freshmen and go off and develop every single year and put their names in the banners in the sky after their senior year. That doesn't seem to be able to happen anymore. In particular, it's not going to happen with Brad. And I'm coming to that realization right now. And it's a bummer. Sure it is. But I'm just in the position where, again, I just like to see Illinois win. And I know he's flawed. And I'm not saying he doesn't have to make some drastic changes, in particular to his coaching staff. And, I'll be talking about that a little bit later this week. But I think overall, when it comes to where Illinois is in the national spotlight, in the Big Ten hierarchy, I don't know if Illinois would automatically get the upgrade that a lot of Brad Underwood haters feel like they would. I think Brad does so many things right that the things he does wrong are excruciatingly annoying. Let me know your thoughts. Are you willing to go to bat with Brad for another few years, knowing that you're going to be winning 20-plus games every single year? You're going to be a top 1/3 Big Ten team every single year, and you're going to have Sweet 16s and maybe beyond runs on occasion. Are you okay with that, or are you ready for a clean slate? For you, it's more important to have players that you grow and bond with, even if it doesn't come with the championship banners that Brad's been able to produce. I'm really curious on your guys' thoughts. Let me know.
March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. With tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. No waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long.
So another shocker that happened on Saturday was Tre White decided he was going to move on and enter his name in the transfer portal. And a lot of Illini fans were noticeably surprised. And I use the word surprise for me, but I certainly wouldn't say I was shocked with Trey. My everydayers in here, and let me know in the chat if you are one of my everydayers. By the way, please hit that like button, subscribe button while you guys are watching. You guys will know, at least since the calendar year turned to 2025, I've been Trey White's biggest fan on this show. I joked that I should be his agent, and that the one thing I didn't quite understand, and I definitely disagreed with Brad on, was why Trey White wasn't playing more minutes as the season was progressing. I thought he was a fantastic player, and it took a Morez Johnson Jr. injury for Trey White to all of a sudden get his minutes back. But truth of the matter is, Trey White's about to play for his fourth team in 4 years. Like, this is kind of what he did. He just had his best year of his career at Illinois, and he's decided to move on. And the reasoning for him deciding to move on have started to leak out. Derek Piper on the Illini Inquirer, again, check those guys out. Those guys are the best in the business when it comes to this. He talked about Trey White, and I guess Trey White and the coaching staff had a meeting on Friday, and Trey was very vocal that now that KJ and it looks like Will Riley are going to be leaving, Trey White kind of wanted to step into that major role, the on-the-ball role, the opportunity to be the featured guy. And Brad Underwood, to all his faults, he's always honest with you. And, again, that might be one of the reasons Morez ultimately left. But with Trey White, he told him he didn't necessarily see him in that sort of role. And if anything, he saw him in the same role that he was this year. And I'll be honest, as the resident Trey White supporter here at Locked On Illini, I side with Brad. I think what made Trey White so valuable on last year's team, or this past season's team, I guess I can't call it last year yet, was the fact that you didn't have to feature him in the offense. That he was a guy who, in transition, he could put his head down, make his way to the basket, and all of a sudden, you don't run any plays for him, but he ends up with 17 points and 7 rebounds for the game. Plays solid defense. He's one of our more athletic players on this past season's team. Not that the bar on that is very high, but I think that was the value of Trey White. Is Trey White the star of a championship team? I wouldn't say that. I think Trey White is a great complementary piece. I think he's a very good, prominent, foundational player. And I absolutely wanted him to come back. I was hoping he would come back. But if he wanted the KJ or the Will Riley role, and Brad didn't see that for him, Brad did the right thing in being honest. Because there was already rumors and rumblings that Trey White was not getting along with the coaching staff, and that he was in the doghouse, and that's why he was not playing for that stretch of games after getting sick. If Trey White was coming back with a full expectation that everything was going to be running through him, and then it didn't happen, we would have had the same issues pop up yet again next year. Again, because it's happened already before. We've gotten history that we can base this off of. It's unfortunate. I do wish Trey would just embrace the excellent basketball player that he is and just focus more on what his strengths are. But at the same time, I don't blame Trey White either. Trey White, this is going to be his last season in college basketball, wherever he plays next year. If Trey White wants to play in the NBA, he's not a 3-and-D guy, right? His defense is okay. His three-pointer, while good over the last month and a half, no one's going to call him a three-point shooter. He's going to have to show more skills. The fact that he can do something with the ball in his hands. And maybe selfishly, and in this case, the selfish part is okay. He's looking out for himself, as he should, if he wants to have any aspirations to play at the professional level after college. But unfortunately, it's just not a fit at Illinois. Brad knows what he wants to do, and Brad knows what roles he needs to fill and what kind of player he needs for each role. And Trey White, I think, excelled at his role last year. And I think Trey White would have been welcomed with open arms if he wanted to accept that role this year. But that's not what happened. Trey White is now ready to be the guy. I'm very curious to see where he ends up landing. Again, Trey White's a very good basketball player. That has not changed. I've said it for a while on the show, I think Tre White is a very good college basketball player. I would not be surprised if he makes $1 million plus playing somewhere next season. But, now knowing the reasoning of why Tre is leaving, my panic meter has gone down a little bit. I don't think necessarily it's just, again, the popular talk is this is a coaching issue. He hated so-and-so. He hated so-and-so. I don't think that's the case anymore. It just seems that there's no loser in this situation. Tre White simply is looking out for himself, as he should, because he wants to play at the professional level. He wants to be showcased more. He wants to have the ball in his hand more. Whereas we all saw what I think is the best version of Tre White. And Tre White had his best season as a college basketball player because of it. But Tre just wants something more. And that's okay. But this is just simply a marriage that ultimately didn't work out here at Illinois. But I'm not sure if I'm going to point the finger at Illinois. Again, I'll say it. Tre White is about to go to his 4th school in 4 days.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
And that's going to wrap it up for today's edition of Locked On Illini. Man, guys, I've got so much content prepared for you guys this week. The season may have ended 8 days ago, but we just had, as I told you, the best week we've ever had on this channel. And I sincerely appreciate it and don't think that I'm going to let this momentum go to waste. I've got plenty of stories. If there's some stories that you want me to talk about, let me know. Either let me know in the comment section if there's a particular story you want me to expound on. Let me know via the social medias. As I always say, just send me a message. I always enjoy having these conversations, which I do with about a half a dozen of you every single day. Or what you really should do is just join the Discord. The link should be in the description. We've got almost 150 Illini fans across the country talking on an hourly basis about whatever's going on in the world of Illinois athletics. But regardless, I appreciate each and every one of you. And again, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you've hit the like button. Until next time, ILL. Love you guys.